Welcome back, everybody. This is the third video in a series of me recreating 5 events from the 2024 CrossFit Games and competing against the women's scores. After 2 events, I have a measly 14 points. Today's event is a rather long one. It is Chad, a hero workout that is 1,000 box step-ups. Now, for the Games event this year, they did Chad a little bit differently. You'll see in the video, there is 2 boxes that you'll step up on and step down, and you'll come back up and down. That counts as 1 trip. You will do 250 trips, multiply that by the 4 up and back, and you'll get the 1,000 step-ups. The women used a 35-pound ruck all on their back. I don't have a ruck, so I use a 35-pound vest. Let's see if I can make any ground up on these women.
All athletes completing 1,000 box step-ups.
Yeah, this is Chad. It is 1,000 box step-ups. Today the sequence plays out just a touch differently than we would see in a traditional affiliate. Chase, we've got a unique setup with the boxes. Athletes are going to be credited for 2 steps up to the other side, then 2 steps up back to the original, and that will be accredited a rep. They're going to do that 250 times for a total of 1,000 step-ups.
Adrian, what are your go-ruck steps of success here?
Well, because of the foreign aspect of this box and the way that it is made for them to navigate, they've got to really create a rhythm. They've got to almost have a 1-2-1-2 dance sequence in order to have success. And then, of course, this is a lower body limiter test. How their legs are feeling coming into today and how they can navigate the discomfort and the fatigue they've already built will have a huge deciding factor on the results of Chad.
All athletes competing here this morning will be competing at the same time, men and women together, and in lane 20 you see the box that will be empty for Lazar Jukic. Now, Chad 1,000 is the 1,000 box step-ups that we see in the affiliate, but today it'll be a little different. Let's go down to Mike Arsenault, who's on the floor.
Thanks, Chase. As Adrian mentioned, it's 250 over and backs, and here's what a good rep looks like. So we're going to take 2 feet onto the first step, 2 feet onto the second step. Now this top box is split into 2. I need 2 feet in section 1, 2 feet in section 2, and then I can step down and step down. And I do that again for 1 good rep, 250 times, so 1,000 total steps these athletes will have to accomplish before they finish this event.
Thank you, Mike. We thought there would be a twist, and that is the twist that we have. And since 2005, CrossFit's posted workouts meant to honor the memories of CrossFit service members who had made the ultimate sacrifice, and exemplary members of the CrossFit community who are no longer with us. Chad is one of those hero workouts. So you see all the athletes starting on the box. And Adrian, unfortunately, there's a very long list of hero workouts, and we've all done various ones. And what do these events and these workouts mean to you personally?
Oh my goodness, man. I tell you what, from the moment I started CrossFit and had the understanding of what a hero workout meant, it meant everything for me psychologically and emotionally. It's far from a physical test, and it's about paying homage to the memory of and the sacrifice made for these men and women of service. And for me, Chase, we've had many opportunities to experience these in the heat of competition, and it is a unique one.
Athletes getting set to take on Chad here at the 2024 CrossFit Games. And Chad is on their way. 2 step-ups on the way over, 2 step-ups on the way back. There'll be 4 total steps, and it'll be 1 total rep for these athletes. And Adrian, when you look at an event like this, I've done Chad myself. I don't know if you have as well, but it's really finding a pace, sticking with it. But it's not just the physical demands that we are going to see on display here, but it'll be the psychological. And after what these athletes, and we've all been going through for the last couple of days, there's going to be an emotional thing these athletes are going to have to navigate throughout the course of this event.
You are going to see a unique challenge with exactly what you just said, Chase. It is physically trying. There's no doubt about it. And everybody watching at home that's gotten an opportunity to experience Chad in a stationary position, just stepping up and stepping down, that is difficult in itself. But the amount of focus that these athletes have to put into execution with the 1-2, 1-2, and then the accuracy that is played along with that for 45+ minutes straight, that is going to be a whole different strategy and end result for these athletes throughout.
You see on the floor just an incredible setup we have here for Chad to start the morning off. Women will all be on the right side of the floor. Men will all be on the left. And as you get further into the fatigue, Adrian, the other thing is that this is fairly close quarters for these athletes. And when you're fresh, you're dialed in, you're focused, you're walking a straight line. But as we get deeper into this event, you see some of that staggering, that wavering, that could pose a little bit of an issue as you get longer down the road.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, Chase. It's one of those things where you can see some of these veteran athletes literally and very intentionally being slow to start. They're trying to create that smooth rhythm that we talked about as a huge step to success here. And I think that they had that understanding, like, we were already through the ringer yesterday. Our lower bodies have met a very high level of fatigue. We've clearly got to be accurate with where our steps go and how to sustain that rhythm throughout. And then the idea here will be, how exactly do they respond, Chase, to perhaps a no rep with having so far to go to have one complete rep successful, and then how will they keep the pace that they've established throughout?
Yeah, you're right, Adrian. A no rep, since it's 4 steps to complete one, a no rep here is a pretty taxing one versus having to do a single rep. Again, that might take a couple of seconds. Now the athletes are briefed this morning on how the standards would be. Mike Arsenault went over that early on, but if you're just joining us, it'll have to be 2 feet in each section. So if you're looking right now from the top of your box, 2 feet in each part, and at the top it's split in half, and you must have 2 feet on either side of that on the way up and the way down. A down and back will equal 1 total rep of 4 steps, which will get us our 250 total. But Adrian, how you get down from the box and up from the box as far as positioning. We see some athletes turning around at the top and walking down backwards. We see athletes just going straight over. What's the difference there or strategy when it comes to how you position your body or which way you step down off the box?
It's a huge decision that you've got to make, and a lot of these athletes are feeling it out right now. We've got athletes nearing the 20 repetition mark here. Chase, it's something where the women are going to respond very differently to it than the men. They're both stepping up, each step 20 inches, and it's the way down that can be the most trying portion. If anyone's gone on a long hike, it's often not the up that's the most physically destructive. It's the way down. It's the knees, it's the hips, it's the ankles. So you're going to see athletes slightly pivot, slightly turn. Some turn all the way around so that the decelerating muscles are there of their glutes, their hamstrings, and their low back, and not just their knees and their quads.
Center part of your screen is the 2-time CrossFit Games champ from 21 and 22, Justin Medeiros. His 5th career in consecutive games appearance, currently sitting in 17th overall, and we know there's a lot of emotion going on here in Dickies Arena at these games, and Justin was definitely one of those that was just visibly distraught along with a lot of other athletes. And the thing about Chad, as you heard, we got to see Sarah Wilkinson, which is Chad's wife. Was it's not about Chad the person, it's just Chad Wilkinson, who is a former Navy SEAL that unfortunately took his life a couple years ago, which is the namesake for this particular event. But she said Chad wouldn't want this just to be about him. It's an opportunity for anyone to sit in a moment, in the emotions, and try to work through something like that versus a singular person, but it's maybe a singular situation. And you know, with the number of athletes we have on here, everybody's going for their own thing in their own way, as we all are on the broadcast, through the community and the volunteers. And it's just gonna be something that it could be one of those events, Adrian, that is unforeseen necessary for a lot of these athletes.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, Chase. And it's again, it's emotional. We're already very deep into an experience that none of us had ever thought we would go through, thought we would explore together, but we're here doing that. To add on top of that, you add this memorial workout for the hero of Chad, and it means something very different to everyone. We were just taking a look at Haley Adams, and in fact, we're already here chipping away at repetitions, and it's a very steady process. Haley just completed rep number 33 of the 250.
Again, if you're just joining us, a rep would be over and back equals 1. There's 4 step-ups per those single reps. As you can see, Haley Adams is back in action. She took the year off last year to focus on herself and her mental health, and it's Listen, as a human just watching another human do work, it's just good to see her back out here healthy, happy, and sitting in second place overall next to the 6-time champ Tia Toomey.
That's right, and Tia Toomey just racked up rep number 36. She's about a rep ahead of Haley right now as things play out. And Chase, you know this, because of the distance that the athletes have to travel, if you start to get behind early, it's going to be hard to salvage time later. That's why we talked about how important it is to create that rhythm and then understand how you're going to respond to the lower body limitation of this test. Because if you start too slow, it's going to be very hard to close the gap on athletes that have a faster clip.
Your champ on the women, currently sitting overall in red, is Tia Toomey. And let's go to the men's side, also wearing that red leader jersey is James Sprague. And you can see on the back of his ruck pack has Lazar Jukic's name on the back. And Sprague, who is first appearance last year as an individual, he had been a teen athlete along with several other athletes in here. And Adrian doesn't have a single event win, but this is how you have success at the CrossFit Games. 4 events, 4 top 10 finishes, 2 sevenths, 2 firsts, and James Sprague finds him in first place overall after 4 events.
That's right. We know we're here. We talked a lot about that yesterday to kind of set the stage for anybody that might be tuning in. We are not trying to find the specialist, and it often plays out that he or she who is fittest doesn't win any specific test, but they score best across the series of all the events throughout the course of a week.
I mean, unless you're Tia Toomey, then you just win. You win most of it. There's 2 ways to get there.
Yeah. It's choose your journey to the top. And I would say that if I could pick any, I'd probably pick the same kind of route that Tia Toomey likes to take to get there.
Unless you're Tia Toomey, then you just win. You win most of it. There's 2 ways to get there.
Yeah. It's choose your journey to the top. And I would say that if I could pick any, I'd probably pick the same kind of route that Tia Toomey likes to take to get there.
Just to the right of James Sprague, you have Brent Fikowski, who's sitting 3rd overall to Yella Hosta. Yella Hosta was wearing the leader jersey yesterday as he won event 1 of the competition. But Brent Fikowski, a little theme here when we look at this event in particular, Adrian, is height is an advantage. It's not often an advantage in most CrossFit events, but in this one, height seems to be a definite bonus to go along with the fitness you're going to need to be successful here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Brent is one of those athletes who just understands pacing, and he's very methodical. And his size, it's actually akin to several of the other male competitors this year. Them being over 6 feet tall, having to travel 20 inches. This is one of those particular events where it is suited. You're going to travel the same distance as the rest of the shorter athletes as well, but you have a lesser distance to drive that knee up in order to achieve each and every step up. And of course, through the course of 1,000 of them total, it lends itself as an advantage to those longer limbed athletes.
Roman Krenikov is currently leading the field. He's north of 50 total reps here for the 250 needed. This is his 4th appearance. 4th appearance that he was really able to make. This guy has been qualifying for the Games several years before he can make his first appearance, and when he did, he has been a podium lock and a contender to win the Games since he first stepped foot on the competition floor live in person.
That's right, very high work capacity from Roman, and he is on his way to complete rep number 58. And we were just talking about Brent Fikowski, and to just give you some levity for the situation here, we've got 53 for Brent here. Just a couple rows down. Hopper to the left of Roman, working on rep number 57.
Gracie Walton, who had an event win in Firestorm, and she absolutely sent it with that Echo Bike sprint along with burpees over the ballistic block. And we have a lot of rookies here on the women's side and having a decent amount of success so far, nearing the halfway point of this competition.
We were talking about rookies, Chase. I just got to look at Claudia Gluck. She's working on rep number 49 and beginning rep number 50 for her. As we can already see here, there's some discrepancy right across the sexes. The males are going to be several reps ahead of the women, although they're carrying that 45-pound ruck, and the women are carrying the 35-pound ruck. It's the distance that really accumulates and adds up that they're going to travel, because it's the same across.
Yeah, 20 inches for both men and women, but you do have those different weighted packs to balance out the field. And let's talk about the packs a little bit, Adrian, is because I've done this event in particular with a weighted vest for 45 pounds where you've got weight evenly distributed on the front and the back side of you. This is all in the back of the pack. You've had experience with long rucks and things of that nature. How does that change the way you navigate these boxes with all the weight on the back?
You know, it changes it tremendously. We're talking about leverage. We've seen the ruck be worn in many different ways and for many different events, but it's so different than just a weight vest. Chase, I don't have the fortunate ability to have a ruck at my house, so I've got to get creative. I put weights in a backpack. I put all kinds of things just to understand what the stimulus is like, and it really does change. You want to stay hunched over naturally, because you want the weight to not just pull you back, especially as you're working your way and navigating forward and back. But it's certainly something very different. If folks watching at home have never worn all the weight on their back, they're only used to a weight vest, you've got to get this experience, because there's nothing like it.
Haley Adams in the all-yellow next to your current leader, Tia-Claire Toomey, Emily Rolfe to her left. Those are your top three after 2 days of competition, currently leading this field of women on the box step-outs. And you think about Haley Adams' strength, it's her ability to grind through the long, tough events. And this is exactly what Chad is for these athletes today.
That's right, and Emily Rolfe and Haley Adams literally going head-to-head, rep for rep here, both approaching the 70-rep mark. Working on number 70 right here for Haley Adams. Very smooth and methodical pace. You can see it. Everybody has that stoic look, Chase. They're all trying to stay as composed as they possibly can and still stay in tune with the rhythm. Most of them are having that full turnaround at this point. A lot of them early started to only turn partially, and now we're starting to see the women almost turn their torso completely, have a full step on the ground, and then just tap that next foot down before they begin their next rep.
Adrian, with that turn, is that something where you just find a comfortable rhythm? I'm just going to keep turning to the left, or do you alternate? Because sometimes you'll see that with something like bar-facing burpees or burpees over the box, where you start spinning in a circle trying to go fast and you end up getting disoriented.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if we take note even to what's going on with Tia here, she's got her hands on the backpack. She's found security in that place of rest for her arms, but you'll notice she has a very aggressive forward lean, Chase, and sometimes she turns all the way, but sometimes she's actually only turning around partially, and I think this is that wisdom that the champ is kind of showing us. It's like, hey, you've got to create some variance in your movement patterns so that you just don't find yourself completely taxed and wrecked by only moving one way for an hour straight.
Oh, we also see a variance in the way these athletes are deciding to cinch up their pack. Emily Rolfe just to the left of Tia Toomey. She has it cinched up tight to the middle in the chest, where Tia Toomey really has a loose setting fit, and that could be due to it's easier to breathe when it's loose, but it's not as stable when you do, as Emily Rolfe is trying to keep pace with Haley Adams. They're currently tied with 352 total points for second and third on the leaderboard. And you look at Emily Rolfe, her skill set and ability, obviously she's known very well for her distance running and running in general, but those type of events tend to be a lot like something like this one.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's interesting, even as I consider who can be a favorite leading into something like this, Chase, I look at how well have they run, specifically run distances in the past. We're talking about a similar energy system. It is long, it is steady. They have to have the unique ability to pace, but they have to have that overall GPP, general physical preparedness, to do something that is relatively low skill and do it for a very long time.
Time in the upper left corner of your screen. We're slowly approaching the 15-minute mark. The time cap is 1 hour and 7. Leading up to the CrossFit Games, Dave Castro, the director of the CrossFit Games, did an interview with every single one of these athletes, and Chad was a hot topic once the event got announced. And the times they were thinking of is potentially maybe somewhere around 45 to 50 minutes is some of the fastest times we could see. So we're nearing that 1/3 part into this event. We talked about our hero workouts being dedicated to a lot of our fallen service members. Mike Arsenault is actually down with Sarah Wilkinson and Jocko Willett.
Thank you very much, Chase. Jocko, Sarah, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me during this very impactful workout. And Sarah, I want to start with you because we've had a lot of conversation of that this event is named Chad, 1,000 step-ups for time. You knew him best. What type of man was Chad?
He was a quiet guy. He was a husband, a father, a brother, a son. He was incredibly driven and focused. And what I appreciated most about him is every goal he set for himself, he trained appropriately, he set his sights on it, and he always accomplished it.
So he actually qualified for the 2009 CrossFit Games. He was not able to attend, so I'm curious, was this part of that training regimen? When exactly did he develop this 1,000 step-ups for time as a training methodology?
Yeah, he definitely wasn't doing the step-ups back then, but it did develop over time. His love for climbing mountains, his desire to hit many more in his future. He found this as a way to test his mental, emotional fortitude, his physical tenacity, and he just wanted to know that when he was walking up that mountain, he wasn't going to be the last guy up.
He had a distinguished military career, and that obviously affected him deeply, what he experienced while he was overseas. What ultimately led to his passing?
Yeah, unfortunately, Chad, like many of our military, have experienced a lot of deployments and combat. He was exposed to a lot of blasts, which led to brain injury, and he died by suicide in 2018.
And what does it mean to you to just carry on his memory and his legacy?
I say often that I'm the torchbearer for his reputation, his duty to his service, and the life that he lived. And I really appreciate how this workout stands for not just Chad Wilkinson, but for so many more that have served.
We'll have more on how you can support in just a minute, but Jocko, I wanted to ask you a couple questions as well, because speaking of distinguished military careers as a former SEAL, how has an approach to mental health differed throughout your career and how people approach it and talk about it?
Yeah, well, first of all, the first 13 years of my career or 10 years of my career, there was no war going on. So people weren't really thinking about mental health in the same way that they started to after September 11th, 2001, when we started doing back-to-back deployments, going overseas, experiencing what you experience overseas. And then it took a few years for the problems to start to surface, and you start seeing guys having a hard time with it, and that's when they started to focus on it. So there has been more of a focus on it lately, but there's still a lot of unknowns, as Sarah mentioned. When you expose someone's brain to concussion after concussion after concussion, even really small concussions, it has an impact, and it really can affect the way people behave.
What is your message to people who maybe have service members in their family who are struggling and keeping it internalized? How would you recommend that they reach out to them?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, I really do believe, and I learned this in an unfortunate way, which is writing eulogies for my friends that were killed. And in doing that, over time, I realized that going through that process of writing down how I felt about that individual, why I cared about them, what I'm going to miss about them. Even though it was hard to do, I found it to be very therapeutic. And then talking about what we've been through amongst our teammates was also very helpful. So when you go through something traumatic, my recommendation is write about it and talk to your trusted friends and teammates about what happened, so you can start to process the emotions, the tragedy, and you can start to assemble it in your mind so that you can put it together in a way that you can move forward with your life.
And everyone processes grief differently. So maybe someone who is quiet by nature and doesn't want to seek out help, how do you kind of reach through and help them?
The number one thing we have to do is we have to build relationships with people. If I'm friends with Sarah, but I'm not really that close with her, I might not notice her behavior starting to change. So you've got to have that core group of friends that you really know and understand well, and you can detect changes in their behavior where you know that they're doing things that aren't normal for them. And so you can identify it, and you can start to ask them questions about what's happening and how you can help them out.
Now, Sarah, you are the founder of the Step Up Foundation. So Chad is the event name. of this event here at the CrossFit Games, but Chad 1000X is the actual workout. How can people get involved in the Step Up Foundation?
Absolutely. You can visit our website, stepupfoundation.org. Visit us on all social platforms by the same name. And then if they're interested in supporting Chad 1000X, which we hope they do this Veterans Day, go to chad1000x.com.
Sarah, Jocko, thanks to you both.
Thank you, guys. And I was speaking to Sarah earlier about just the relationships you have with people, and she had this little phrase: just speak up, show up, and settle in with those that you love as much as you can. Jack Rosema, who's currently in the military, he's active duty, he's a captain. He's actually in JAG at a Fort Knox in Kentucky. Actually a former wrestler in Ohio State, walked on to the Ohio State wrestling team, which is a monstrous feat in and of itself.
And right now we've got a lot of different strategies that are taking place here on the competition floor. Roman Krennikov being up there as an overall leader in this event. He's very smooth on the top of the box, Chase. Watch this little tap that he does, and then it's almost just a little shuffle right off of the top to the next side. We talk about this being a very consistent single modality test, and when you have those fallbacks, it's going to be something that allows you to hasten your pace. And Hatfield rivaling that with even more momentum on his way down, being one of the shorter statured athletes in our whole games field here. He's found a way to be almost falling down the steps and still be able to contribute to the 1-2 tap that is mandatory in each box.
Oh, and that's what's putting him in the lead over Roman Krennikov, because you think we're talking about taller athletes all the time. That is not what Austin Hatfield is.
Nope.
But what he is he's a guy that likes to settle into hard things, and he wants them to get tougher to try to make a move here. Obviously, he hasn't had the games that we have expected him to possibly have as a rookie, but Adrian, we've actually seen this on the evolution of the rope climb, where everybody's fast on the way up, but what we've seen is how can you speed up as safely as possible on the way down, and it looks like Hatfield has figured out to gain ground on others on the descent rather than the step up. Center part of your screen, Emily Rolfe is your current leader, along with Gabby McGawa. And we talk about long grinding events and success. Gabby McGawa won the Capital event back in 2022, which involved 300-pound pig flips, 3.5-mile run, farmer carries, and that Husafel carry up the steps to the Capitol, which is one of the more grueling events we have ever had at the CrossFit Games. So not a real surprise here to see Gabby having some success here, probably just over the halfway or nearing the halfway point of this event.
And this is one of those elements, Chase, where these athletes being beside each other is a huge, huge advantage. You go down, as I'm here on the floor, trying to soak in where athletes are, what their paces are doing. To be here on the floor, it is so hard to understand where your fellow competitors are in their pace and in their rep count. We have no idea. So that's a part of it as well. They're side by side. They're able to pace off one another. I'm sure Gabby and Emily both had an idea that they would have great success in this event, and they were going to feed off of one another all the way through.
Agent, sometimes having familiarity with a particular event, maybe not exactly the same thing, but maybe the same stimulus or same feeling. When Dave was interviewing these athletes, if they have done Chad before, it seemed about 50-50, those that have and those that haven't. What's the advantage having done an event similar to this?
It's a huge advantage. I mean, look, when you think about feeling a stimulus, Chase, one of the most unique things about doing CrossFit is that if you've never experienced a combination of movements or even a single modality like these step-ups for the duration that they're programmed, it is a huge limitation. We talk about failing at the margins of our experience. Well, our goal is to fill the margins of our experience by doing sometimes workouts that even feel so outside of the box you'd never do. Hey, who's going to do 1,000 step-ups for time? Well, these athletes are doing it here today.
Harry Lightfoot in the yellow tank top, rookie here at the CrossFit Games, coming out of the French Throwdown European semifinal, has approached the 132 mark. If you're just joining us, you look at the top part of your screen, we are doing Chad. 1,000 box step-ups for time, Men wearing a 45-pound pack, women wearing a 35, 20 inches on each step up, 250 total trips. So that'll be 2 step ups and over and back for 4 total steps. And that will be the trips as Harry Lightfoot is approaching 135.
Harry Lightfoot being light on his feet. And one thing that we talked about even as we entered the competition floor today, Chase, we had an opportunity to see what the athletes are going to be stepping up and over. I am down here and literally seeing these athletes drip and sweat all over these boxes. We considered, could there be an alternative? Maybe a softer box, maybe something with a bit of a slicker surface. But I'm going to tell you now that would have been very difficult to withstand due to the amount of drippage that is down here because of the sweat alone.
Got word that your order for men as it stands now surpassed the 26-minute mark is Austin Hatfield, Roman Krennikov, and Pat Vellner. Krennikov, who is currently sitting in a podium position, 2nd place overall behind James Sprague, who's in the red shorts to his right. Jason Hopper in the green to his left is in 3rd. We still have a lot of competition left to go today and tomorrow. But we're kicking things off with a grueling test that is Chad. Pat Vellner in the green fatigue shorts started the weekend off as he traditionally does over the last several years in a 33rd place finish. But what he does over the course of the weekend after an event like that is just something to be just kind of, it's awe, puts you in awe. He took 1st, 3rd, and 5th in the last 3 events, and it's what Vellner does. He digs a hole, climbs out of it, and then he's vying for a podium spot, and he's just trying to get that elusive CrossFit Games champion after finishing 3rd twice in his 9-year career. Vellner passed at a 150 mark, so 100 reps left for Pat Vellner. As you can see, Lazar Jukic's name on Yellow Hosta pack, as well as Vellner and Dallin Pepper. Some athletes opting to wear the Lazar Jukic jersey in honor of their competitor and friend who we lost on the first day of competition. Henrik Hopalainen working his way through the 1,000 box step-ups. Hopalainen coming out of the European semifinal.
Chase, we're at this point in this event now where athletes, for lack of a better phrase, the rubber's going to meet the road, or the rubber's going to meet the box here, where it's now going to be not just something about the rhythm you've established, but your physical fitness and how you really respond to that lower body limitation. We're well in past the normal time domain that these athletes are pushing really hard. We train high power output for the most part. We love that. It gives us the great results. That's a staple in our methodology. But time to time, you've got to go long, and you've got to develop a more broad aerobic base and test yourself long and hard. And that's what Chad is asking of these athletes right now.
We saw 2 tests like that yesterday with the Firestorm event, 3 rounds for time. Calories on the Echo Bike and burpees over the ballistic block. And then last night at Farrington Field with the 1,600-meter run and the sprint carry on the field. So a lot of intensity in the last 2 events. And this one, as you said, Adrian, is just that long time domain, grindy. There's no skill, there's no strength. It's just the ability to endure, continue. And it gets outside the physical test we see so often here at the CrossFit Games, and that is something Dave Castro wanted to put these athletes through. Currently top 3 on the women. Gabby McGowan, the center part of your screen. Just to her right, in all yellows, Emily Rolfe, and then Haley Adams. Your current leaders on the women's side as we are approaching the 30-minute mark in this event.
All doing their best to hold the pace with one another, very aware. I'm sure these athletes even get a sense of where we're at on the floor with the attention they're getting, the cameras. Like, they know they got to be in the lead. They're doing something right. Let me hold tight to the competitor next to me and make sure they don't get too far away, or I can hold my lead.
Tia Toomey in all red, your current leader overall after 2 days of competition. 6-time CrossFit Games champ. Took the year off last year to start her family. Her and her husband Shane welcomed a baby girl last year. In fact, last year Tia Toomey was in the booth with us, broadcasting event with Willow on her chest. She's about 4 reps behind your top 3.
And you can even notice here, Rolf in the middle of the two between Tia and Gabby. She's staying a slightly bit more hunched over as she enters the top of that box, minimizing the distance that she has to travel, not making her legs work too hard. Her being a taller athlete gives her an advantage to get over the top, but she still doesn't want to get to full extension and be wasting time or energy for her lower body.
Austin Hatfield just past 170 reps, and James Sprague, your overall leader for the men, has moved into second behind Pat Vellner. Dallin Pepper to the left of Pat Vellner. And James Sprague in the red shorts. Your overall leader for the men and the women will be in red.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Chase, nothing is standing out to me about what has changed in his approach, except he's hastened his pace, his intensity away from each step. His feet are shuffling just a touch quicker, but he's not staying lower. He's not changed the way that he's operated his transition or turning of his body, but there certainly seems to be a pickup in overall intensity.
And it seems that Austin Hatfield is the only one that is really utilizing that quicker descent. Left corner of your screen, your overall top 5 after 2 days of competition. James Sprague, as you said, in the red shorts. 9-point lead on Roman Krennikov, who is on his right, with Brent Fikowski to his left. That lane 20, that empty lane, is in honor of Lazar Jukic. And that lane will be empty throughout the entirety of this event for him. You see a lot of athletes showing their respect, having the Jukic name tag on their shirts, on their packs. You'll see athletes have his name written on their arms. See, Ricky Garrard looks like he's laboring pretty good. And Adrian, when you see the descent being a bit slower or coming up, I mean, if you think about the things that we had yesterday, we were talking about this earlier this morning, is, look, we ran, I mean, did you see that? Is that, not to speculate on what's going on, but leg fatigue, leg seizing, I mean, what are the things these athletes are going to be facing in the middle of this from a physical standpoint?
Everything you can imagine, Chase, to be honest with you. From yesterday, the fact that they went long, they also went fast. They also did a ton of fast, violent contractions with weight at 225 for 100 reps, gymnastics, rope climbing, you name it. And then to finish the night off with that 1,600-meter run, Chase, into the sprint. My only assumption is that these athletes are battling a lot of overall fatigue, but more specifically, lower body muscular contractions that are creating essentially muscle cramps, man. So they're trying to figure out how to navigate probably seizing of the quads and the glutes and the hamstrings while they can still keep moving.
And that's just the sometimes the nature of things, as Ricky actually looks like he's recovering a little bit better, but it's not an endurance thing for Ricky. I mean, this is one of the best endurance athletes we have when it comes to long events, running events. He won the 1,600 meter last night, the only athlete to go sub 5, and then he turns around on the sprint and wins those back to back. So it's not necessarily a fitness thing for Ricky right now, which is unfortunate to see.
It is, and when you think about even being inside here, we get the break from the outside. It's nice and cool in this arena, but because they've done so much work, and with the 45-pound ruck across their back, it's increasing their body temperature exponentially and at a very fast rate.
James Sprague is slowly approaching the 200 rep mark, so he'll have 50 left to go once he gets there. And Sprague, as you said, Adrian, looks like he's found a sweet spot, starting to pick up his rhythm a bit.
Yeah, I mean, and he's feeling pretty good. He just lifted his hand to his ear to make sure that he could hear his judge with where he was. And what that tells me is that James potentially didn't even begin this event with, hey, I'm going to start a pace and I'm just going to hold it. Instead, he decided that incrementally, as the workout progresses, maybe I'm going to get after it just a little bit more, because I know the rest of these fellas are going to be on a negative split and I want to be on a positive split.
Hatfield trying to keep pace with Sprague. Quicker on the descent, a little bit of a slower turnaround at the bottom, but it's the unique situation or paces and strategies we see between the athletes. Obviously nearly two completely different athletes competing against each other in this event.
Absolutely, and I'll even say this, Chase, the advantage that Hatfield has is that he is off to the side. He's not in the thick of it where Sprague's getting a look at Krenikoff and Sprague's getting a look at Brent Bukowski and Hopper, and he's getting an idea where he settles along their pace. I can't say that he has any idea that Hatfield is down here making fast work of these step-ups.
Top two on the women's side, Gabby McGowan, lane 18. Emily Rolfe to her right in the all-yellow. Rolfe has moved back in the lead for the women, as Tia Toomey to her right in all red and Haley Adams are keeping pace with your top two in this event.
It seems like a lot of the same for the women. No real drastic change in pace or cadence as of yet. Body posture still holding tight all the way the same. Tia still coming down with a partial turn, tapping that inside leg and getting it right back up on the box. What's interesting about that, Chase, though, is that she continues to let her first step be with her right leg each and every time, and I'm referencing Tia, and it's very consistent. You wonder if it will fatigue that one side very differently than the other through the course of 1,000 reps.
See James Sprague's family in the front row with his dad clapping. His dad is a Games athlete in his own right, and when you see that relationship between those two over the years, it's a special bond you see out there. And you know, Adrian, you and I, it's like, listen, seeing a family out there, whether it's kids, wife, parents, out there cheering you on, that's a different level of boost and support you can have out here in the middle of an event like this.
Oh my goodness, it's so much. I mean, athletes, not all of us have the same kind of family dynamics, Chase, right? So it's one of those things, for a lot of these athletes that are close with their families, it's a strong portion of their why. It's why they're out here representing, showing what physically and mentally that they're capable of and what they can do. So there's nothing better than to see your family in the stands, whether you get a chance to acknowledge them directly or not, because you're out here handling business. It's a beautiful thing and a great inspiration to show them exactly what you work for and what you train for, and now you get to put it on display.
You're just joining us. This is individual event number 5, Chad. 1,000 step-ups for time with a 45 pack for the men, 35 for the women. And you see this unique setup for this event. 250 total trips. They'll have 2 step-ups on the way over, come down, 2 step-ups on the way back, and that'll be 1 trip for 250 total. Time cap 67 minutes, and we are just past a 38-minute. And a few of our male athletes have just about 50 or less reps to go, as we are inching closer and closer to the end of event number 5, as Austin Hatfield on the far left, as you said, Adrian, by himself in a sense of he's not getting stuck in the mess, cluttered up. He has a little bit of free air to his left, but he is pushing the pace significantly. And again, it has something to do with that descent that I haven't seen another athlete try.
Yeah, we talk about that being potentially a hidden advantage for him down there on the left, because also what he can do, Chase, is glare back and still get a pretty good good idea of what everyone else is pacing. So he kind of gets lost in the distance, but he does get a clear shot at the rest of his competitors and what he can do slightly different just to create that advantage.
Austin Hatfield finishing 220 reps, 30 reps to go for Hatfield. Takes a look down the line. The only one that's easy to see is the man on top of the leaderboard, which is James Sprague in that red shorts. Now, different than we've had before in other events, Adrian, we don't have a scoreboard. Athletes can see where they're at. There's no rep counters. They don't know where each other are, so they just have to sit in the moment, hoping their pace is enough to get them a top finish in this event.
Yeah, that's right, and this is also where you can see, and it really opens up the margin for error, Chase. We've had a steady clip. Everyone's moved at a steady pace. All of a sudden, they hear the crowd erupt. They know where they're behind or whether they're ahead, and they're going to become a bit desperate in the pace that they can hold. you wonder, is that 1-2 step that they have to touch in each box going to present themselves as more of a challenge now that we've got more fatigue, and now they're trying to hold a faster pace.
Tia Toomey in red just passed the 205 rep mark, less than 50 trips for her. Emily Rolfe to her left in the all yellow at 213, so an 8-trip lead. Now 1 trip is not just a single rep, Adrian. 1 trip over and back, that's more than just a couple of seconds.
Absolutely, and it can be costly if you have to go back or get a no rep, because they will be forced to start a complete rep where they started that repetition if it happens.
Gabby McGawa in the green to Emily's left is just about a half rep or half trip behind her.
Yeah, and I think this is where that strategy comes into play. When you're beside a competitor, you have an idea exactly where they're at, and you just want to kind of hold that base just to hold them off. Will we start to see anyone make a move by intentionally quickening their pace, or will they just be content with settling in where they are?
Austin Hatfield continue the quick descent. 20 trips left for Austin Hatfield. Austin Hatfield. It looks like he just found his sweet spot, Adrian. And sometimes, if you've never done Chad before, trying to figure out what's your best strategy. Do I go forward? Do I go backwards? Do I have this little quick hippity hop descent down the line? And funny that the rabbit farmer from West Virginia.
That's right.
Looks like he's got a little spring in his legs for this event.
You named it great when you called it the hibbity hop, being that the rabbit farmer's doing his thing. And I think it's important to note that he hasn't held this whole event at the same clip or the same pace or the same strategy. It's ebbed, it's flowed, it's come back, and it's re-entered. And I think when he feels good, he knows he can make a move, and when he has to settle his heart rate, he slows it just a touch. And right now, he's making a move.
Austin Hatfield on the right has a 1-trip lead on James Sprague on the left. 15 reps left to go. We know that, they don't know that. James Sprague picking up the pace on Austin Hatfield. James Sprague has now picked up 1 rep on Austin Hatfield.
Yeah, they're starting to get a sense of it, Chase. They're starting to get an idea. James just peeked over his left shoulder down towards the end.
Well, you can hear the floor announcers. They can't hear us, but the MCs are calling out what rep they're on. Austin Hatfield trying to ask his judge where he's at. 241 for James Sprague. Sprague is past Austin Hatfield. Hatfield trying to kick it in gear. Quick turnaround for Hatfield. 243 for James Sprague on the left.
Oh, it's that step away that Hatfield's allowed. He's opening the door for Sprague. Sprague's not stepping away.
No.
He's tapping and going.
Hatfield having a hard time on the turnaround. As you said, James Sprague, 5 reps left to go. Every trick over and back is 1. 4 more. James Sprague wearing the leader jersey for the first time in his career. Just missed the games 2 years ago by a devastating 81-point comeback by Will Morad, missing by 1 point. Made the games last year for the first time as an individual, just happy to be here. James probably didn't know what's going to happen when he showed up on Thursday, but James Sprague is going to keep the leader jersey for 1 more event. Austin Hatfield is done. A finish he desperately needed. And James Sprague, filled with emotion, and we can all understand why. And it has nothing to do with the finish. It has nothing to do with the event. It has everything to do with what a lot of these athletes, volunteers, and fans are going through at the moment.
And just to give an idea of how head-to-head that was, we got no hands up in sight. Athletes are going to be nearing that final stretch on the men's side, but wow, Those two had a pace that they held for those final 50 step overs that was just out of this world.
Center lanes, Pat Vellner on the left side next to Dallin Pepper. To his right, Yellow Hosta, Brent Fikowski. Roman Krennikov to the right next to Jason Hopper as well. We just heard there's a race over on the women's side with Emily Rolfe trying to hold off and hold on to that lead. As you can see, James Sprague seeing his family congratulate him on that great performance. Emily Rolfe on the right side of your screen in all yellow. Gabby McGawa to her left. To the left side of your screen, Roman Krennikov has 4 trips left to go. Roman Krennikov sitting in second overall, trying to chase down James Sprague, hoping for a third place finish in this event, but Pat Vellner on the far left is trying to keep pace with him. 2 reps left to go between the two. Vellner might be ahead of Roman. 2 trips left for Roman.
Roman's got him by about 1 step.
2 for Vellner. Yeah, Roman's 2 on 2. Last trip for Roman. 1 more step over. It's got to cross the red line. And 3rd place for Roman Krennikov and 4th for Pat Vellner. And Pat continues to climb as Emily Rolfe, center of your screen in all yellow, is looking to take it for the women. 2 more reps for Emily Rolfe.
Hand up for Haley Adams.
Gabby McGawa to her left has 2 reps. Last one for Emily Rolfe, and she across the finish line, and she'll take Chad. Gabby McGawa, 1 trip left for her. Haley Adams trying to close it out. She's got 4 more trips. McGawa's got a descent, cross the finish line, and that'll be 2nd place for Gabby McGawa. Dallin Pepper will finish in 5th. Brent will finish as well. That'll be a 6th place finish as soon as he crosses the finish line. 1 more trip to go for him. Brent will finish next on the women's side on the right in all yellow. Haley Adams, 1 trip left. Tia Toomey on her left, 4. Haley Adams, who was in 2nd overall. Emily Rolfe should move ahead of Haley for 2nd. So Haley will still be in a top 3 position with Tia Toomey with a 30-point lead. She should be fine with 2 trips left to go.
Amy Kringle with a hand up, 5 reps to go. Now down to 4 for her.
1 more for Tia Toomey. Tia Toomey is done. Yellow Hosta, next man to finish. Last step down for Yella. Jay Crouch is next. Final trip for him. And Adrian, after 1,000 of these step-ups, it's incredible to see how tight some of these finishes are.
Oh, it's amazing how tight it is. Let me tell you something else that I'm witnessing down here on the floor. How much these steps across the red line matter. When they're reminded that they have to actually step across this red line, they try to go fast, and it ain't happening. It's almost like they're about to step onto a box for another repetition. It's wild.
Last rep for Bethany Flores on the left. Jason Hopper. 1 final trip for him as well.
Lightfoot and Quant both with 3 reps left.
Harry Lightfoot on the left side in the yellow tank top is trying to get ahead of Samuel Quant, who's in the center lane himself with no shirt. Final rep for Justin Medeiros. He'll be across the finish line. Callum Clements thought he was done. They had to have a 2-step down. Fortunately, just had to reset his feet to come down and didn't have to do the whole rep. So Tia Toomey, Amy Kriegel, and Haley Adams. Caroline Stanley just crossed the finish line. Final rep for Linda Caseman. 4 reps to her right. So here Kaya, as that'll be Abby Domit across the finish line, followed by Cole Greasaver. Hand in the air for Alexis Raptis. Next to hers, Alex Gazan in the all yellow. Gazan trying to get herself back into contention for a top 10. Hand in the air for Brooke Wells. Final rep. Linda Caseman and Alex Raptis right at the finish.
Chase, we talked about this a lot on and off throughout this particular event, but this is one of those things where you had no idea where your fellow competitors were. I can see the heartbreak and disheartening feelings that a lot of them feel when they recognize some of their peers were so much further ahead, as if they didn't realize they weren't keeping pace with the leaders or keeping up with those, or how other people were doing step-ups. It's like you can see it across their face. They're not necessarily suffering. It's because it's the letdown, like, oh my goodness, I've got so much work left. And that's the difficulty in gaming a situation where the setup isn't such. You gotta have some great situational awareness.
Brooke Wells is done. Colleen Souza just finished himself. Brooke Wells just finished. Behind her is Alex Gazan. Has a couple more reps to go herself as Anyola Kai crosses the finish line. Just past the 52-minute mark. The cap was 17. As we get closer and closer to these athletes completing all 250 trips, 1,000 step-ups over this 20-inch box. And we forget, these athletes are wearing packs, 45 pounds for the men, 35 for the women. Alex Gazan is done. 1 trip left for Sahir Kaya.
Smooth back pedal across the finish there.
Arthur Semenoff just finished for the men. And up in the air for Gracie Walton. Saxon Panchek. 1 trip left to go for the men's side. Gracie Walton, who won Firestorm last night in dramatic fashion. And that is her last trip across the box, finishing with a smile on her face. Bruno Marines, out of Brazil. He'll cross the finish line just under the 53:30 mark.
You can see the athletes laying with their legs up. They are trying to get as much of that blood circulation that has been pulling in their legs back toward their heart as efficiently as possible. We have started the day with Chad. They had 3 events yesterday that were extremely taxing, and this day is just beginning. They're already thinking ahead, Chase, trying to get themselves together for what lies in wait.
We've all been there before. We've all been there before. Emily Ruff will take the event. 47:01. Gabby McGawa just behind her by 14 seconds, followed by Haley Adams. And wild to think that it took 1,000 step-ups to finish this event, and they're only separated by 14 seconds.
We talked about that focus and the psychological test of Chad alone, and that's a great example of it right there, Chase, is that they had all this time to create separation, and for things to happen, it was still so tight throughout. That's a high-level focus for a very long time.
Sungyeon Choi has completed her Chad. As more and more hands slowly go up in the air as we're getting closer to the finish. Emma McQuaid Handful of reps left to go. Final step over, and that looks like Brandon Luckett, who is just doing everything he can to come down the box without toppling over.
Yeah, certainly an assumption, bit of speculation here from what everyone's experiencing. It looks like a great example of fighting a leg cramp there, trying to avoid seizing up as best as possible.
We saw that with Ricky earlier, who was just having a massive struggle on the box. As James Sprague takes the event for the men, Travis Mayer across the finish line. Emma McQuaid's final rep. Emma McQuaid, who has the nicest garage gym I've ever seen in my entire life. Let alone the nicest affiliate I've ever seen, and it's in her backyard. Bailey Martin. They'll cross the finish line as we are approaching the 56-minute mark, time in the upper left corner of your screen. It's always nice to have a buddy there. Sometimes the hardest thing to do when it's over is to get that pack off.
That is what friends are for. That is what friends are for. And anyone that is used to training in an affiliate, I'm sure you recognize this. When you hit the pain cave, the shoes come off, the friends help you untie them sometimes, the backpack, the vest, whatever you're wearing, you're trying to find relief as soon as possible.
Call that a CrossFit garage sale. Shoes, socks, shirt, headband, wrist wraps, backpack. Dawan Chung, final trip left for her. She'll cross the finish line.
Chase, we talk about battling cramps, and these athletes, as they're seeing this event through here, completing the 1,000 step-ups, even if they've had experience with doing it before, it doesn't mean that they've done it at this speed and at this type of intensity. And the way that you contract a muscle, it really dictates how it responds. So you could have done this casually in an affiliate, or perhaps been a leader by several minutes to the next closest person that's fitter than you at your affiliate, but to have the intensity here is a very unique situation.
Daniel Brandon and Hattie Canio side by side. Daniel Brandon just crosses the finish line. Emma Lawson. 2 athletes left for the men. You see the women are done looking on. So you have 6 women left on the floor. Julia Cato just completed her 1,000 steps. That was Ariel Lowen. Speaking of garage gyms.
Where's she trained, Chase?
News to me, Adrian. Past the 58-minute mark, Hattie Canio. Rookie coming out of the Northwest semifinal. 1 trip left to go. Georgia Pryor just crossed the finish line. Hattie Canio is done. James Sprague takes it for the men, 43:58. Just 11 seconds ahead of Austin Hatfield. And we weren't sure. I mean, Adrian, you go to any top 10, top 5 leaderboard pick coming in. James Sprague did not even crack that. And now he's here leading for the 2nd event in a row.
Yeah, James is an amazing athlete, and he's got high-level capacity in many ways. So far, these tests, they really lean into his strengths as an individual. Some of the biggest challenges that James will face in order to sustain the top of that leaderboard are awaiting us in future tests. It's going to allow the scope of this test of fitness to be more well-rounded. So we're going to see how well he's been filling in those gaps, Chase.
Well, if you stuck around for that whole video, thank you. And also, you'll see that I didn't do so bad. I got 31st place, picked up 18 points, more than doubled my total, which is great for me. We're over halfway done with my events so far, and things are looking up. Stay on track in the next video when I do the clean ladder.